Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sessions Café. I'm your host, Keri D. Singleton, and today we have a special episode with our guest, Koren A. Small. She is actually going to coach me
Yes.
on loss.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as we talked about in the previous episode, your technical title is
Grief coach.
grief coach,
End of life doula.
end of life doula,
Yes.
right? And we just had so much to talk about that. You were gracious enough to come back and actually take me through a session. So this is new here on Sessions Cafe, but I thought it was very important because I wanted people to actually see your work, so that they know how valuable your work is, so that they can reach out to you.
Got it.
So I'm going to give you the floor.
All
This is your episode.
Okay.
So
So what I like for you to do, ground yourself.
okay.
I want you to place both feet on the floor. If you're comfortable with your hands on your knees or to your side, it's up to you.
Okay.
And I want you to take a deep breath in. Deep breath out. Another deep breath in. Hold that for about 5 seconds. And exit out. I want you to take this moment to travel back in time to where something shifted and changed in your life.
Anything at all?
Anything at all.
Okay.
And I want you to just sit in it for a second. Just sit in it for a moment. I want you to get all of those feelings, feel them.
Yes, I do.
All right. Take me there.
I decided to pick the moment that I became a man, which was when I moved to New York City
Okay.
in 1996, following my father's death in September of 1996. I decided, for a variety of reasons, not just because of my father's death, that it was just time for me to leave the nest. And instead of, most people leave home, they move around the corner or move down the street or something. I moved from Boston, Massachusetts to Bushwick, Brooklyn.
Okay. How did you feel when you moved? What was that feeling that you had?
I definitely felt like it was my emancipation. I had wanted to leave Boston long before 1996, years, maybe even a decade before 1996. I was 24 years old. Again, my father had been killed that summer, and there were a lot of other incidents that happened before and after that year. And I just felt like it was time, especially since my father's murder was unsolved and still is. And so growing up in a city that's pretty small, I didn't know who killed my father, and that person could have been walking a block away from me or passing me by on a subway. So I felt, for a variety of reasons, that it was time for me to leave.
So now we are in your first apartment after everything has transpired.
Well, it was a room.
Your room.
Yeah.
And the world is asleep and you are up. And you have all these thoughts going through your head. Describe that to me. Your very first night as a man, as you stated, in your own place without your dad.
So I moved to Brooklyn with my best friend, one of my best friends. We moved there together from Boston. So it was a room that I shared with him. It was a bed that I shared with him. A very cold, uncomfortable situation, to say the least. No TV, no radio, nothing. We were living like savages. And as Cecil Wade would say. And but I was in my own space. I was in Brooklyn as opposed to being in Boston. So I was wrestling with a lot of different emotions, missing mom, missing my family in Boston, but also the newness of it all. I wasn't unfamiliar with New York City at all, but I was definitely a new resident, and that was very different.
with you being a new resident, as a fatherless son, how did that make you feel in that moment?
Very angry. Very angry. Shortly after I moved to New York City, I was blessed to move to New York with a job. I was working with a record company, Palm Tree Records. We promoted artists like Little Vicious, a lot of reggae artists, Patra, Beanie Man, Buju Banton, and Shaggy. And I remember going to the office one day from Brooklyn, and my boss says, "There's something for you in the break room." And I was awarded a gold and platinum plaque from Atlantic Records for the sales, for promoting Shaggy's Boombastic album, which of course, as you know, was a huge. So my very first award and my very first piece of, I guess, the first time I ever felt like I succeeded in the music business, which had been a passion of mine since the early 90s. I received this in 96 in my new home across the river. But the fact that my father, who was one of my biggest supporters, my mother was kind of like, "Keri, this is nice, but get a job." Get a real job. That was my mom back then. My father was like, no, he's going to be the first Russell Simmons. He's going to, the first Russell, the next Russell Simmons. He really championed behind my musical aspirations. And the fact that I got that award, as happy as I was, the fact that he wasn't here in the physical to see that made me very angry.
How did you channel that anger at that time? And if you need a minute to ground yourself and sit back in it, do that.
Koren, I've always been into architecture. One of the things that I love about New York City, and there are many, is the ever-changing skyline. Some of my favorite buildings in the city were the Chrysler Building, the Empire State Building, and of course the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center.
Yes.
Didn't have a lot of money, and that's putting it lightly, but my best friend and I would often take the subway from Bushwick down to the World Trade Center and just stand in between the towers and look up and watch them soar to the sky. One of the towers had a bigger antenna than the other, and the top of its antenna would always be illuminated, and it would blink, and it looked sitting on top of the tower. I think it was the top of 4 World Trade Center. I'm not really sure, but at any rate, a lot of times that's what I would do. I didn't have a lot of money, so he and I, my best friend and I, would just go there, look at the towers, and for us, it symbolized rebirth. The rise of these 2 110-story buildings symbolized opportunity, and frankly, we looked at it as a direct message that the sky's the limit.
In that moment, I want you to close your eyes. Think of you holding that award. You are staring up at the sky's the limit. And I want you to tell your dad exactly how you feel.
Felt or feel?
Nope, feeling right now. You're in the past, but I want you to talk to him now.
You missed a lot. You missed a lot, Dad. In the past 29 years since your life was taken, my brother, your younger son, is about to open his 3rd dispensary in Boston. He's got a beautiful girlfriend, makes a lot of money, smokes a lot of weed, but he's very happy and he's very successful. As for myself, you would have been proud of me as well. You would have been proud of not only the things that I've done, the places that I've been, but I think moreover you would be proud of the person that I've become and the people that I've surrounded myself with, who are great, and I feel they are a reflection of the love that I give to other people. But you missed a lot, and I think that if you were here, you would be extraordinarily proud of both of your sons.
All right. Close your eyes. I want you to feel as if you are receiving the hug that you missed for those 29 years. Hold on to it. Now I want you to open your eyes and look at now. And let me know how that has shaped you into the man that you are today, and all of the things that you have done for others that I can assume is in memory of your dad.
I actually felt that hug. I felt that hug in the same way that I can feel myself rubbing my hands together.
How did that make you feel?
Relieved.
Good.
Relieved.
Because you needed it.
I did.
That 20.
Yeah. A 22-year-old, well, 24,
24,
when my father died. Yeah, I was 22 when my grandmother died 2 years before that. That 24-year-old missed that hug. My mom did a phenomenal job.
Mm-hmm.
My mom had raised me, you know. But fortunately, after my parents separated when I was about 6 years old or so, they remained best friends. So it was my mother who actually handled all of his funeral services. Yeah. And I remember saying at his funeral when I spoke at the podium, something to the effect of, I'm in so much pain right now because he was a good dad. He wasn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but he was a good father. He loved his sons. And it just seemed so unfair to me at the time that he should lose his life in such a violent way, and that despite all of the people that he did love up in Boston, which was also his hometown, nobody seemed to...
Life moved on, basically.
Yeah, nobody seemed to help when it came to the... Nobody helped with the arrest, nobody knew anything. The streets closed their mouths, and I felt that that was kind of cold because my father was so much the opposite. You know, he loved, he did his dirt, you know, he was into the streets, but he never shot anybody, he never stabbed anybody. And he loved with his whole heart. And the fact that that wasn't reciprocated when it was time for us to find out who took him.
It's incomplete. Felt incomplete.
Yeah, and quite bitter at my hometown. I've held on to a bitterness towards the city of Boston for a very long time.
All right. I want you right now to take that bitterness and that pain, and I want you to start formulating a plan for purpose. So what we're going to do, because this is condensed and there's a lot more that needs to be done, we are going to put together something where, because will this year be the 30th year or the
29th
this
year.
will be the 29th year?
Yeah.
Where I want you to do something in remembrance of your dad.
Okay.
From that place of purpose.
Okay.
Okay? I want you to think about what it is that you're going to do. I want you to sit in it, write it out, rally your village to support you with it. If you need me, you know where to find me as well.
Thank you.
But in the midst of time, I want you to reground yourself. Close your eyes and take a deep breath in. Deep breath out. And as you inhale purpose, you're going to exhale your pain out. So inhale purpose, exhale pain. Inhale purpose, feel that embrace as the pain exits out your body. Despite life tribulations, I want you to tell me one thing that you are grateful for in this moment.
Life. My life.
And I want you to continue to be grateful for that life and live it knowing that your dad is proud. He has helped you to where you are today. And I want you to understand that and know that.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You were the bomb diggity, as we used to say in the 90s, and I thank you.
You are welcome.
Thank you. We'll see you next time. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sessions Café. Today we're coming to you from ACX1 Studios on the beautiful Atlantic City Boardwalk. I'm your host, Keri Singleton, and I'm joined by my guest, Chris Mascioli. How are you today, man?
Great, brother.
It's great to be here with you, man, on the boardwalk here in Atlantic City, a place that you're very familiar with.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 25 years you've been on the boardwalk?
Yep, all the casinos worked out here over the 25 years.
Wow, you've seen a lot of things come and go here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You've produced and managed a couple of acts, Kicking Rocks, Danny, and the Juniors?
Correct.
Like cue cards here, you guys. Robert Capella, who we've had on the show.
Right.
A guy with some really, really great boots, by the way. And the Emmanuel Band. So for you, Chris, production is something that you take very seriously. It's deep in your heart as a consummate music lover. Talk to me about what it was like working with these four artists.
Well, being a musician myself, obviously opens up a lot of different possibilities for producing the artist. You know? So, as we know, there's all different levels of musicians. Some take it more serious than others.
Absolutely, yeah.
Some have the love for the artistry that they're putting out there to the audience, and then other ones are just basically there for the time.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was a great pleasure working with all those people. All of them have albums, all been on the national circuit at one time or another.
Wow.
Yeah,
so you really
great honor.
You really spent your time as a musician influencing the lives of other musicians.
Well, that's one of my goals at this stage of my life, is to help up-and-coming entertainers, get them through all the points so they can be successful and not going ahead and taken advantage of.
Right.
Because
exactly.
this business is very tough, as we all know.
Yeah.
And many people go to music college. They learn how to conquer their instrument. They learn to play ensembles. But they never get taught the business of music.
Exactly.
Right? So
Right.
since they don't have that skill set, they usually fail
Right.
or get taken advantage of. So my goal now in life is to help people like that get through and get their talent out there.
And I think a lot of musicians and artists really get the whole equation confused. It's not the music business, it is the business of music. And the business component is what makes you or breaks you in terms of you having a good comprehension of it. How do you go about getting people to understand the dynamics of the business of music?
Well, I try to teach them there's certain goals you have to do first to protect if you write a song, having it copywritten,
Immediately, yeah.
having it published properly with a good publisher, not someone that's working out of their basement that don't know anything about the business. Going and working through and working with people that have knowledge in the industry. So like if I was going to take an artist coming up, I don't go to a basement studio. I go to a pro studio because I want the best quality I can put out there. Okay. And of course, there's always budgets constraints because everybody's not a millionaire, as we know.
Absolutely.
So you have that level to deal with. But I always look to see the best possibility for the product to get it out there.
As we're talking about the business of music, I was an aspiring songwriter when I was younger. As a matter of fact, a lot of people don't know this, but Maurice Starr, who famously founded New Edition and New Kids on the Block back in Boston, was a person who I approached with a stack of songs, and I blindly gave them to this man when I was about 12, 13 years old. I didn't know enough to get the songs copywritten legally, so I did the poor man's copyright. What are your thoughts on non-traditional ways of making your music work legal?
Well, today in this environment is so easy today because we have the internet.
Right.
Everything is available on the internet. So if you go to the copyright office and you go down the selection of what you're going to copyright, in this case music, you know, all the forms are there, there's tutorials there, there's videos there, and from your home, you go ahead, fill out the form, and go ahead and process your product.
Right.
All right, and then once it's in the system, you're protected then, but even though it may take some weeks or so before you get a certificate that says you are, all right? The old day, if you took and you wrote a copyright sign next to what you did, as you're talking about, there were still some gray areas that you could be sued from or lose your property to song or whatever. So today, everything's out there if you know where the tools are.
And you did mention that you worked with a gentleman named Bob DePersia. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, Bob is similar to Robert. He's an independent singer-performer, but he also is a national recording artist. He worked with the band Syntron. He had some very big hits in that era. And now he works locally like I do. If they need a keyboard player, I'll come and fill in, those kind of things. So he works every week, almost every weekend, singing and performing.
Wow. And you're from Philadelphia.
Yes.
From South Philly.
Correct.
I have to ask the magic question. Who makes the best cheesesteaks in Philadelphia?
Well, now, it used to be, you know, between Pat's and Gino's there, okay? But now, looking at the list and going to different places, Steve's is pretty good.
Okay. Where's Steve's located? I might want to go check them out.
Well, they're actually in Northeast Philly, not in Philly. They used to be in South Philly years ago, but they moved to the Northeast because there was no cheesesteak places there.
Right. You're right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I gotta check that. I don't. When I go to Philadelphia, and I'm very familiar. I don't spend a lot of time in the Northeast section. There used to be a skating rink called Wild that I used to go hang out at on the Boulevard.
Right.
I don't know if it's still open or not, but cheesesteaks. I usually hang out, closer to Center City, sort of, kind of. That's just I don't know. But I'll take your word for it, though.
If you if you go on the internet, they'll have the top 25 cheesesteaks place in Philadelphia. Right. So, but it's all a matter of taste, right?
Of course. It's definitely, yeah, exactly. So, entertainment director for different venues in Vegas for 4 years.
Yes.
Tell me what you've seen in Sin City.
Well, working Philadelphia market and working Atlantic City here, the upper echelon's Vegas.
Clearly.
I'll give you a real quick example. Here, you would load the equipment in. If you're not actually working for the casino, but if you're doing a party, an event, you come up the freight elevator. If you want to get dressed, the linen closet's over there. If you want a cup of coffee, there's a store down the street.
Right.
But when you're in Vegas, you get an ID card, and every show at any casino, you show the card, first, second row, or the wings on the stage. You can sit. So you get a great opportunity to meet the star there. Any employee's restaurant there, you get to eat free. You get a room. So you get washed and changed before the show, and it's a whole different caliber of musicians there. Probably some of the cream of the crop. And I'm not talking about just the performers that come in like a Chicago, Tower Power, or whoever, Celine Dion. But us as being house musicians, we would go ahead to, there was 2 clubs at the time. We would go, we opened at midnight to 8 in the morning, and we would go there and we would perform with different guys, like guys from Caesars would come down, or the Hilton, or whatever. And we would jam. But the great part was, you're all of a sudden, you're up there playing, and then here's the Chicago horn section coming in jamming with you. Or here's the Tower Power guys, or here's the Leonard Skinner guys. So you never knew who was going to come through the door, because not all of them was out partying or gambling. They still had that adrenaline going from playing their show, and they would come out and they would meet us as musicians, shake your hand, and become friends. And over those years, I've made so many pro friends and worked with different artists recording as well. So for me, it was like the highlight of my life, because of being the entertainment director. Every artist who would come in on a Thursday, I would get an envelope and they would have the contract. And since you're the entertainment director, you also have to work with the union lighting guys, the sound guys, the stage hands. And my job, besides sometimes playing, not all the time, because they may be self-contained unit. But if they needed a choir or horn section, that was my job. If they needed certain lighting or video set up or wireless mics, could be anything. So that's what an entertainment director do. We didn't do my particular job. I didn't do booking. There was other people who did that. But I went ahead and supported the people that came in for the shows.
Wow. And you also toured with the Four Tops.
Yeah, I went around the world with them. When the Sahara finally closed, they came up to me and said, you know, we need a keyboard player. I said, well, that's nice. There must be better keyboard players than me. I'm always down to earth. They said, but, you know, we worked with you a number of times. You've always been prepared. You're on time. You dress properly for the show. Anything we need, you bend over backwards. But the most important part was you never got involved in our band politics.
That's very important.
And they had some other keyboard players that would tell them how to dance, how to sing. And these guys came from the ground up. You don't tell them what to do. You support them.
You support them.
So they hired me, and in first class all over the world, every place we went. It was a wonderful time. Great guys. There was nothing there, anything but music, the love for music. You know, it wasn't about race, it wasn't about politics, it was about music. And I learned when we would go to countries like Japan or Germany, you may not be able to talk the language, but everybody in the world understands music.
Everybody does, yes.
Right.
Universal
And
language.
unfortunately, like in this country, most people, like, in their schools, they teach multiple languages. So when I went to Japan, they were speaking to me in English. Okay. And the core parts of the country, they all spoke English. When you would, like, I would get in a car and I would go see the country, and I would go north of Germany or north of Rome or whatever. That's where you got into the traditional people that speak their dialect. Now, me growing up in an Italian family, I couldn't always understand, because the dialect is different than South Philly. But a lot of times I could understand what they're saying because of their hands. They talk with their hands, or they have certain movements that they do. And it's the same back here, because my grandparents came from those places. So I grew up with that.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you sharing your story, man. And I think it's most important that with all the accolades that you've received, that you're taking so much time to be a mentor and to share the important information that you have from your experiences as a successful musician with others. Thank you so much for being on the show, man.
You're very welcome.
Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.